And let us say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. Thank you. Once again, we thank each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively for the co-creation of this interaction. We would like to begin this transmission by stating the title, Shedding New Light on Negative Beliefs, and present to you a new way, a new perspective of looking at how negative beliefs function so that you can have a clearer idea of how to let them go, if that is what you prefer, of course. We have had many conversations with many of you in which people have stated that they feel certain energies that are blocking them, certain kinds of energies or forces that are preventing them from doing this or doing that. Sometimes even talking about the idea of external forces and external energies that don't allow them to do one thing or another, or are allowing them to feel that they are being controlled by some other kind of force or energy from somewhere. The first thing that is very important to understand in this concept that we are sharing with you today is that anything that you experience internally is your energy, no one else's. It cannot be any other way. You have your energy, and everything you experience in life is made of your energy, is happening in your energy. Now, this doesn't mean that there can't be other beings that you may be interacting with or aligning with that have their own energy and maybe have their own agendas and maybe have their own intentions. Whether they be beings that are human or non-human isn't the point. The point is that no matter what anyone else's agenda may be or intention toward you may be, the only way you can experience it is by matching the vibration with your own energy and thus creating a representation of what it is they may be attempting to pass along to you. But you're creating that experience, that internal experience of what you call their energy out of your own energy, because that's the only thing you have to work with, is you, in your reality. So the idea, bringing this down to the concept of beliefs, and more specifically, the idea of negative beliefs, we have talked about the idea how negative beliefs, like any belief, will attempt to perpetuate themselves, doing whatever they need to do to prevent you from letting go of them. But when you feel the idea, when you express the idea that some form of energy is stopping you from doing this or that, it's very important to remember that all you're actually feeling is your energy. Beliefs do not have their own energy in the context of this concept. They have to use your energy and get you to feel your energy in a certain way in order for you to have the experience that you are assigning to them as their energy. So they are borrowing your energy, siphoning off your energy, filtering your energy through the belief and reflecting it to you in a certain vibration that is representative of the belief in order to give you an experience that something else is controlling you, something else is forcing you, something else is pressing its energy upon you. But it's all you. Every single bit of it is your energy. So in order to make this idea a little bit clearer, we would like to use an analogy, since we have titled this Shedding Light, of the light bulb on your planet. A light bulb has no power of its own. You have to plug it in or screw it in to the socket where the energy, the electricity, is then capable of reaching the light bulb and illuminating it. Beliefs are like light bulbs. You are like the electric current. When you screw in a particular belief, then that is the bulb that lights up. But it doesn't have energy of its own. All you have to do is recognize that it is simply an, shall we say, delivery system that lets you know that energy is being run through it. It is an indicator that energy is being run through it and activating it, illuminating it, allowing you to experience that feeling, that sensation that the energy is coming from something somewhere, and I don't know where, and I don't know if I'm in control. But again, it's all you. And all you have to do is unscrew the light bulb, and it will go out. Stop feeding it the energy. It will have no way of illuminating. It will have no way of allowing you to feel anything. You will know you are not being controlled by anyone but yourself. But when you filter that electric current, that energy, through the light bulb belief system, you get what you are flowing the energy to. You get that particular light turning on. But you can turn it off very easily by understanding that it is something that has no energy on its own. You can imagine actually unscrewing that negative belief and being able to look at it in a neutral state for what it is. It's just a light bulb. It's just a device that lets you know where your energy is flowing. So if you don't prefer the feeling, if you don't prefer that feeling of some energy coming from somewhere or some force blocking you or preventing you from doing something, you just have to start seeing that as your energy flowing through a light bulb of a certain type. And if it's not the type of illumination that you prefer, imagine yourself literally unscrewing that light bulb and just looking at it now that it has gone out and realizing that you can change it. You can screw in a new light bulb that is one of your liking, one of your preference. Let's look at it another way as well, continuing this analogy a bit further. Imagine yourself in general as absolutely transparent, so transparent that other people might think of you as invisible. And light passes right through you. All sorts of forms of concepts and energy pass right through you, just like a glass window. Nothing impedes those things. The things that you experience are only when you decide that certain areas of that transparent being need to suddenly become translucent or opaque. You create that opacity that allows the light now to have a place to reside, either translucently, where it lights you up in that area, or even completely opaque, which means then you start reflecting that light back to others based on whatever the opaque area is designed to reflect, be it positive or negative. So another way to understand that this energy is always flowing through you from source is to understand that if something is feeling a little out of alignment, out of whack, as you say, off kilter, there may be belief systems that are allowing certain areas of your being, of your existence, to become more opaque or translucent, and they can be allowed to become more transparent, allowing that energy to just flow right through you like a window. So it doesn't stop. It has nowhere to reside, unless it's something that you prefer. And then you can grab it and become opaque in that area and reflect back that light to others, knowing that it is exactly what you prefer to reflect. And you can decide in what areas you choose to be opaque and what vibrations you choose to be opaque. And those things that don't relate to you, those things that you don't prefer, those things that have nothing to do with you being you, let them be transparent. Let the light pass through. They have nothing to do with you. That energy is for someone else to interpret in their own way. For someone else to take that light bulb and screw it in and get illuminated based on that vibration, that concept, that frequency. So imagine yourselves now in any given situation that you have experienced, may be experiencing now, or will ever experience, imagine that sensation that you are feeling, some kind of energy, some kind of force. It may feel like a blockage. It may feel like an emotion. It may feel like fear, for example. But you have to begin to understand that you are simply feeling another state of your own energy. It cannot come from anywhere else, because even if it does, as we said, you still have to create your own version of it in order to actually have an experience. You have to match that frequency to have an experience of it. And by doing that, you are making that happen. You are creating that sensation out of your own energy. No one can affect you directly in that sense. You have to agree to affect yourself. So allow yourself to start really understanding that whatever it is you experience internally in any way, shape, or form is made out of your energy. It's all yours, you own it, and you can do whatever you prefer to with it. And start thinking in terms of beliefs being these little light bulbs that you can unscrew and screw in as you prefer to do so. Choosing the illumination that you prefer. Use this analogy and it will begin to work for you. Practice with this, and you will start to understand that the beliefs themselves have no power. They're just a device to allow you to feel your power, your energy, in the way that you believe at that particular moment works for you, be it positive or negative. Because remember, you don't experience anything that you don't believe serves you. So even if you recognize you may be choosing things that you empirically and intellectually understand do not serve you, the only way you would be choosing them and having that experience is you have a belief system, you have a light bulb that you're passing your energy through that illuminates the situation in such a way as to make it seem to be the thing that does serve you. And then you have something to work with, because you realize that the only way it would appear that way is because of the light bulb that you've screwed into the socket. Unscrew it and watch it go out. And take a moment to examine all the different beliefs, all the different light bulbs. Choose the one that you prefer. Choose the kind of illumination that you prefer. And screw that one in. The same energy that powered the negative one will power the positive one, because they don't have power of their own. It's you that's powering them all. Every single moment. Does this make sense? Yeah. All right. So you can use this as a different analogy for the concept of enlightenment. Oh, let us say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. First and foremost, we thank each and every one of you, again, individually and all of you together collectively, for the co-creation of this interaction and the allowance for us to experience through each and every one of you another facet, another perspective, another point of view and experience of all that is. We would like to begin this transmission by talking about an idea to give you more clarity on the concept of manifestation. It has been labeled, has been recognized by many different names in many different cultures, not only on your world, but other civilizations as well. One of the names you have given the idea of the manifestation space comes from your psychological disciplines and has been referred to generally, loosely, as the collective unconscious. It can be referred to that way. It can be referred to as consensus agreement. It can be referred to as the idea of manifestation space, as we have done by labeling or titling this transmission that way. But primarily, it is really all about what might be termed the primary belief. Now, the idea is as follows. First, it is important to realize that you don't have to learn to manifest. You're manifesting, obviously, all the time, or you would not be having any kind of a physiological experience at all. So you're always manifesting. This isn't about learning how to manifest. This is about learning how you already manifest, so you have more conscious recognition, more conscious awareness over the process, understand more clearly the mechanism at work, and how you actually transform concepts from a non-physical, higher level, higher dimension reality into the physical experience that you're all having. The idea begins, of course, with the formation of what we have termed the physical persona, the personality that is composed of the definitions or belief systems and the emotions and the thought processes that then combine to form the behavior of the physical individual that you have chosen to be, to experience yourself as. But in creating the fundamental definitions that underscore that personality construct, that creates within your consciousness a certain resonance, a certain frequency. That frequency then is translated into your reality as what may be collectively called a state of being. That energetic state of being, that particular consciousness frequency, then radiates, in a sense, within your consciousness, ripples out from that center point, just to give it a focal point for you, physiologically, to relate to, and is reflected back. Now, that reflection is not actually happening, of course, outside you. It is happening, again, within your consciousness. But we're calling it a reflection for illustrative purposes to make it, again, easier to understand how the mechanism works, at least by analogy. That reflection, then, encounters something very specific. For you to experience the reflection in the way you do as the experience of physical reality, something specific has to happen. And this is where the manifestation space or the prime belief system actually comes in. This truly primary belief receives the reflection and does something very specific with it, changes the frequency, the resonance, in a very particular way that can be translated by the phrase, "This is real." Without that primary belief telling you that the reflection you're experiencing in your consciousness from the state of being you're creating with your definitions and beliefs, without that phrase, without that recognition, without that enhancement, you would not be capable of experiencing physical reality as if it were real. So manifestation begins in the physical experience with that prime belief that this is real. Now, as you expand your consciousness and begin to recognize more and more often that physical reality is your projection, is your construction, is in a sense an illusion and not really real in the sense that it doesn't really exist outside of you. It is a construct within your consciousness. But by telling yourself it's real, thus then being capable of making it appear to be outside of you, making it manifest seemingly around you, in your life, in your physical reality. But expanding your consciousness starts to break that down because you are starting to recognize and realize that physical reality is an illusion. You're starting, in a sense, not to pay as much attention, so to speak, to the prime belief that this is real. You will still pay enough attention to the prime belief, the manifestation space, to still have a physiological experience, but the idea of becoming aware that that's the way it works and that's the way you reinforce the illusion by having the prime belief that allows you to buy into the collective consensus agreement that what you're experiencing is real, you can still make it more malleable, more flexible, even while you're having the physiological experience. It can become more slippery by allowing yourself a little bit of leeway to start breaking what we call the continuity illusion, the manifestation illusion, the prime belief illusion that this is real. Don't misunderstand. The experience of physical reality is real, but physical reality itself is just a projection, just an illusion, and isn't real unto itself without you manifesting that experience by telling yourself over and over again every moment that this is real. So when you begin to wrap your mind around the understanding that there is a specific space, a specific resonance point within your consciousness that we are calling the manifestation space or the prime belief that is reinforcing the idea that what you're experiencing is real, you can now begin to play with it a little bit more consciously. Again, not completely letting it go, but allowing it to be a little bit more plastic, a little bit more malleable, so you can begin to work with it in more conscious ways and allow yourself to begin to manifest the things that are truly more in alignment with your preference, with your resonance, with your true signature vibration, instead of manifesting things that might be out of alignment with it. This will also help reduce the amount of processes that you might need to arrive at any particular point in your life. By allowing things to work for you instead of believing that you have to make them work, you will allow this manifestation space, this resonant point within your consciousness, to begin to truly align with the fundamental frequency of your being, and in so doing, allowing physical reality as a projection to become a little bit more transparent to you as a projection, thus allowing for more slippage in your space-time experience and the breaking, as we said, of what you typically call continuity, where things can manifest much more rapidly, where there doesn't have to be as much attention paid to the concept of time or space in which manifestations appear to occur. So by just knowing and just visualizing and just imagining in any way, shape, or form that works for you, this resonance point within your consciousness, this manifestation space, this prime belief where you're telling yourself, this is real, and allowing that to become a conscious, or at least more conscious, directive that you're telling yourself about the reflections you're creating within your consciousness, you can begin to see things start to break apart a little bit more. Things become a little bit more magical in their manifestation. The increase in synchronicity can be quite profound when you wrap your mind around and pay attention to the fact that you have that manifestation space, that resonance point within your consciousness that is constantly reinforcing the idea of physical reality as a real experience, as a real thing. So the more you pay attention to that, the more you're aware that that exists, the more you may, in your journeys through life, as you follow your passion to the best you're able, with no insistence on a particular outcome, actually find yourself capable of manifesting things that are far more representative and far more reflective of your passion, of your joy, of your synchronicity, of your being, of your creativity, of your love, of all the different ways that you might choose to express yourself in positive and constructive ways within your life, by knowing that you're the one that determines whether something really is real or not. Now, again, there is the consensus level to this where you will not necessarily let go of all that you have agreed to in terms of playing this game called physical reality on Earth. And certainly, you can relax some of your agreements, however, with the consensus to start allowing whatever it is that is more representative of you as an individual to begin to appear in your life, to begin to manifest in ways that serve you, while knowing that when you do that, you are actually also serving the whole, serving the consensus agreement, because it's about becoming the piece of the puzzle picture that you were created to be, more clearly. And just being in that shape will allow other pieces to also simply be the shape they were created to be, so that all the pieces fit together more seamlessly, more harmoniously, more effortlessly in that way. Now, again, the idea of manifestation, as we will remind you, please understand again, as we have just described, it is not something you're doing in terms of bringing something from somewhere else to where you are. Everything is here, and everything is now. Much of it might be invisible to you at this moment, and that's all right, because it's operating on a frequency that is representative of someone that you are still in process of becoming. And as soon as you become that person, as soon as you match the frequency of that invisible thing that is already here, then you begin to perceive it. So this idea of wrapping your mind around this manifestation space, this resonant point, this prime belief, this is real. As soon as you start really playing with that and start recognizing that that exists within you to reinforce the reflection, much more often with your awareness, then you will see that the manifestations will occur automatically because you're simply shifting your vibration and recognizing what has always been here that is relevant for you to experience in your life. And it will always appear in perfect timing when you are focusing on that resonant focal point and knowing that you're the one telling yourself that this is real, this is real, this is real. But the awareness that you're telling yourself that, paradoxically, does a little bit of just the opposite. This is an illusion. This is an illusion. This is an illusion, because I have to tell myself this is real in order for it to be an experience. If you didn't have to tell yourself it was real, then yes, it would be real in the classic meaning of that term. But because you actually have to convince yourself it's real, that tells you that it's not real. It's an illusion. The proof, in a sense, and we know that sometimes you don't necessarily think about physical reality this way, but the proof, in a sense, is as follows. We have talked about the idea that you are really an indestructible, eternal, and infinite being, and that everything exists here and now, which means you do too. That there is really only a single moment. There is really only a single spot. That means existence, in a sense, is permanent. The fact that things in physical reality are not permanent should tell you everything you need to know about the fact that it's an illusion. That's why it breaks down over time. Because it is an illusion, because things that are actually real, like your existence, never change. They're permanent. So the very fact that you see things break down over time, disintegrate over time, get worn over time in your physical reality is a sign that what you're dealing with isn't real. That you have to actually work to maintain it over a period of time by convincing yourself that it's real. But over time, that loosens its interest. It loosens the bond. You start to recognize, as you become more aware, that physical reality is not real. And that's why even within the consensus, things start disintegrating, deteriorating, falling apart, because you're the one that has to hold it together to perpetuate it. So the very fact that physical reality is impermanent tells you it's not real. You're the one that's maintaining it. You're the one that continues to manifest it. And the changes that occur are the changes that are relevant for you to understand in whatever way it's important for you to understand that physical reality is just your projection and it's not something that needs to last. But you will, because you exist and you have that fundamental quality of existence. Is this making some sense to all of you? Yes. All right. So let your mind just sort of ponder the idea of the manifestation space of the prime belief, where you are taking reflections created by your belief system and using the prime belief to convince yourself this is real. And by realizing that you're doing that, letting yourself relax the reality factor so that it can become flexible enough for you to begin to allow it to align with your fundamental vibrations sufficiently to begin to experience manifestation on a whole new level. Deal? All right. It's up to you. We thank you then for allowing us to transmit this idea, this seed of change to you. Let it grow within you at whatever rate is relevant for you in whatever way is best for you. In return for the gift you have given us, We ask now, in what way may we be of service to you? You may begin with your dialogues and questions if you wish.
I'm going to say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. Thank you. Thank you once again for the co-creation of this interaction. Each and every time you allow us to interact with each and every one of you and all of you together, it is a great gift for us that allows us to experience through all of you many more facets of the multidimensional crystal of creation. So we thank you for that gift. This transmission has been titled the 135711 Download. The idea being that this will be a kind of a shorthand template for you to be able to call upon the main principles in metaphysics so that as you move through life, you'll be able to remember this simple formula, this simple idea that can take you right into the deeper principles in a moment's notice. Once you understand each and every one of them and use this idea of this template, you can have this guidance tool through life at any time you face a challenge and require remembering what it is that you may be able to do at that moment that will propel you forward in the most positive and creative way. So first and foremost, the idea begins with understanding that, of course, as has been said many times for thousands of years on your planet, everything is one thing. It is the idea of what we call the third law. The one is the all are the one. You, us, everything within existence are reflections of one intelligence, one existence, one self-awareness. The idea of the one has different aspects to it. One aspect is that which is homogeneous, unbroken, has no sense of itself whatsoever, no self-awareness, no experience. It is just existence, pure and simple. But within existence, there is this idea of that which knows itself, that which is self-aware, which is consciousness. The idea of self-awareness requires that there be the concept of an other than self by comparison in order to know that there is the self. So the unbroken one doesn't have a concept of an other. It is literally one thing. And therefore, without a reflection, it is not self-aware, except for that aspect of it that creates in its own reflection everything you understand to exist within creation. So by having this split of reflection within the one, where suddenly there is this concept of what is not the one, what is the other within the one, then there is this dynamic that is created that creates the explosion of existence in all of its forms. But from that one is everything. And once you understand that there is this dynamic of one and not the one, and the other and not the other, and the self, then you have immediately not a polarity, but a trinity. Because there is always a balance point in the center between two polarities. So you instantly jump from 1 to 3, not to 2. You always have the balance point in the center. This is what is meant by some of your religious texts when they talk about a trinity. They have interpreted it in certain ways that are human terms, but the idea is simply more fundamental than the way it is presented in many of your religions. It is simply that there always has to be a middle point between what you experience as duality, what you experience as polarity, what you experience as opposites. And that is a triangle, which is the most solid, stable structure and is the underlying template of physical reality. Triangles and tetrahedrons form the underlying template of what you experience mathematically and energetically as your physical reality projection in consciousness. The idea, therefore, is that once you have this sense of self, by creating a sense of an other than self, and create the trinity of the balance point between the two polarities, you instantly develop and expand into the idea of the structure of existence, the nature of existence that then can perpetuate everything you experience from that point forward as reflections of all that is. This leads to the idea of the five, what we have called the five laws, which are as follows. You exist. There is nothing you can do to change that. Everything is here and now. There is nothing you can do to change that. The one is all, the all are one, as we have said. There is nothing you can do to change that. What you put out is what you get back. There is nothing you can do to change that. And the fifth law is everything changes except the laws. There is nothing you can do to change that. But the idea of everything changing is that the only thing that everything changing can change into is not changing, which becomes the laws that never change. It's a circle, it's a cycle, it's a self-perpetuating loop. This doesn't change, this doesn't change, this doesn't change, this doesn't change. This changes into that which doesn't change, doesn't change, doesn't change, doesn't change, and everything changes except it changes into that which doesn't change, doesn't change, doesn't change. You get the point. So it creates this cycle, and that is actually a description of the structure of existence. The structure of existence never changes in that sense fundamentally. What changes is your perspective and your experience of the structure. That's how creation expands, because you're always seeing the single moment of now, the single point of here from new perspectives. What you consider to be different places and what you consider to be different times, different moments, are actually the same place and the same moment, but from different perspectives, different angles. And this goes on and on and on in an ever-expanding spiral, and it never, ever ends. So you can have an infinite number of experiences that are constantly shifting and constantly changing as your perspective and definition of yourself changes, but you never change the structure. That is a fundamental underlying basis for everything you experience. And if you can remember the underlying structure, then you will always have a foundation to stand on, no matter what challenges you face in life. Now, as you continue to expand from the idea of the one and the three and the five and understand the structure and nature of existence, now you come into this idea you call the projection or the dream of physical reality. And I remind you once again, non-physicalness, in a sense, is your natural state. I'll just say the spirit realm, for lack of a better term, is your natural state. You never leave it. That's where you live. That's where you exist. It's where you are. In whatever you want to call that dimension, spirit, higher dimension, doesn't matter. That's your natural state. Right here, right now, isness, existence itself. But the idea is that you are dreaming that you have left that state. That's what physical reality is. You are in that state, dreaming that you're not in that state. Therefore, you create this framework called space-time, so you can experience a process of change, a process of growth, so you can have different perspectives and expand creation in that way by forgetting who you are, so that through the process you can remember who you are, but from a new point of view, and that is called discovery and expansion and change. Now, when you develop this space-time framework you call the physical reality dream, then you set up parameters, in a sense guidelines, that allow you to know exactly how to navigate, how to survive, so to speak, how to perpetuate this physical reality dream. And this goes to the number 7, which are the 7 basic needs in life that allow you to experience physical reality. These things are built in, and they are literally what you need in order to experience your life physically to the fullest. They are, in a sense, ordered in the order that without them, you would die the quickest. So the first thing you need in physical reality is this concept, based on your collective agreement, of air. Without air, you will die in minutes. So breathe deeply. You are abundant with air, and you will continue to exist in physical reality because you have set that up as one of the rules of the game. You need elements that you call air in order to survive in this projection, in this dream. The second need is water. Without water, you will die relatively quickly. The next is actually not food. The next is sleep. Without sleep, you will probably go psychotic and die within about 11 days. Food is next, and with liquid, with water, you can probably last quite a while. Now, please do understand, we're not talking about exceptions. We understand there are those individuals who can alter these ideas and can exist without food for quite a while, without water for a long time, but they have made an alteration that is not necessarily what you consider to be the norm. So right now we're just talking about the averages of what you need typically in your physical reality to continue to live. So after you have the air, and after you have the water, and after you have sleep, which connects you back to the idea of your spirit self, it's like recharging your battery, because this is an illusion, and you have to constantly recharge your battery to perpetuate the idea that you're actually living in something real, which you're not. So you have to go back and remind yourself, all right, I'm going to create this projection again. It's not real, but I'm going to go back into this dream, which means that, in a sense, when you wake up in the morning, you're actually going to sleep, and when you go to sleep, you're actually waking up. So the idea then after food is you need some kind of shelter. Now, when we say shelter, we also can simply mean a compatible environment to life. It doesn't mean you have to have a house. It simply means that whatever environment you are in has to be sustainable for you to live comfortably, to give you what you need to be able to continue to survive in temperature, in whatever. The next idea is you need connection, relationship of some form. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be with people. It can be with animals, it can be with trees, it can be with rocks, it can be with the cosmos, it can be with anything, it can be with creation itself, but that relationship has to be real to you, and there has to be real communication there, and it has to sustain you in the sense of what you need to know that you are connected to something, and getting a reflection you need from that relationship to allow you to become more and more and more of who you really truly are. The last thing you need is this creative expression, to act on your passion, to be yourself and give the gifts that you have to give, to truly express these ideas in life creatively, lovingly, in a sharing of some sort. These are the things you need to continue to survive. Now, we understand that when we talk about the idea of relationship and we talk about the idea of expression of creativity or following your passion, it isn't necessarily something that is going to immediately end your life if you're not really doing it, but it will, for lack of a better term, kill your spirit if you're not doing it. And eventually, if you dampen down the energy of your spirit and don't fulfill the idea of being yourself, which is, after all, your fundamental purpose in life is to be you as best as you can, your unique self as best as you can, then the idea is that you do sort of die slowly, or you bring yourself into circumstances that allow you to die quickly, or even perhaps take your own life. The idea is that you do need these things. These are the fundamental needs in life. They are different from the concept of what you may say you want in life. Remember that needs are synchronistically provided to you if you're acting on your passion. You will have everything you need. You may not always get everything you want. I think you have a song by that title. The idea is that sometimes your wants can coincide with your basic needs, but very often, because of negative belief systems, fear-based belief systems, and the negative ego structure, your wants will very often not actually be representative of what you truly need. So if you're going to spend time wanting something, want what you need, because that's going to actually support you in life and allow you to live a life of fulfillment and joy. So when you have the idea then of the 7 basic needs, and the final one connecting, now following your passion, to the 11, which are the 11 elements of excitement, the 11 elements of passion that we have described to you. That is the formula of acting on your passion to the best that you can, with absolutely zero insistence or assumption as to what the outcome is supposed to be. Because the truth is, your physical mind has no idea what the outcome actually needs to be. Going back to needs, what you truly need. From there, you have the tools in the kit. You have the driving engine that moves you forward in life, because when you're passionate, you just can't wait. You have the energy. You just can't wait to act on it. It becomes the driving engine that moves you through life. The organizing principle of synchronicity in a positive way starts to come up. Remember that there is such a thing as negative synchronicity. So these tools allow you to take advantage of positive synchronicity by allowing it to bring you situations and circumstances in the order in which you need to act on them, by bringing them to you in the order that contains the highest amount of excitement, and then the next highest, and the next, and the next, and brings them to you in the order not only, but at the perfect timing that you need to do them in, so that what you didn't have time to do at the end of the day when you're excited about being tired and going to sleep, you didn't need to do that day. It is perfectly calibrated to you to give you what you need to do that day and nothing more. Then you have the tool that is the path of least resistance. You start to flow through life. You follow your current. You understand that you have a current, that you are a current in the ocean of creation, and that you know that your current knows exactly where you need to go. So go with the flow. Remember, once again, surrender is not giving up control. Surrender is surrendering to the control that's already built into your flow. So go with the flow. Don't resist. Don't swim upstream. Don't swim against the current, because then you will experience the idea of trouble and difficulty and struggle and pain and strife. Because all resistance is the result of resisting your natural self, and pain comes from that. You may have been taught that it's very difficult to be your true self, but in fact, the most difficult thing is being someone you're not. So the idea is to let go with the flow, be who you truly are, because that's what you were made to be, that's the unique reflection you are, and everything will support you in that. And that brings us to the next tool in the kit, which is that you always receive, when you're acting on your passion, automatically, whatever form of support you actually need to be able to continue to act on your passion. Sometimes on your planet it might be money, sometimes it might be synchronicity, which is another form of abundance. Sometimes it might be a gift, which is another form of abundance. Sometimes you might be able to trade for something, which is another form of abundance. And sometimes it might just be your imagination, which is the conduit of communication for your higher mind, and giving you new options, new inspirations, new ideas, new pathways, new doorways, and that is another form of abundance. And whatever form or combination of forms of abundance need to be there to allow you to continue to act on your passion will again come synchronistically to you. So don't close the doors to other forms of abundance that may actually be able to help you by assuming that only one form will work. Next, you have the idea that this is a kit that is complete. It is giving you every single thing that is relevant for you in your life. And then you have also the reflective mirror tool in this kit of passion, which reveals to you anything within your belief system that might be out of alignment with your truth, with your passion, so that you can identify that negative belief, that misaligned belief, understand that it doesn't belong to you, understand that it's nonsensical, it has nothing to do with you, and let it go. Once you allow yourself to experience these tools, then you stay in a state of positiveness so that no matter what happens, you will always know, you will always derive a beneficial effect from it, because it doesn't matter how it looks. It doesn't matter what the situation was created from. It doesn't matter what anyone else's opinion in the situation is or anyone else's experience of the situation may be. If you stay in a positive state, you can only extract a positive effect from it. This is simple physics. What you put out is what you get back. Remember, that's the fourth law. So the idea is, when you have an understanding of acting on your passion to the best you can with no insistence on the outcome, you activate all these tools and you have the 11 elements of excitement at your disposal. They act as an instruction manual for how life works. And even though we may sometimes go deeper into explaining how these instructions may work, there are no more instructions. This is the entire instruction manual you need for life on Earth. It is that simple. So as you go through life, allowing yourself, when you face your challenges, which are the reflection of the themes that you chose to explore in transforming darkness into light, negative into positive, negative limitation into freedom, as you face the challenges that come up, remember, everything is one thing. There is a trinity, which means there is always a balance point in the center, and your point of power is in paradox. So anytime you see what appear to be opposites, and you're standing at the center of them paradoxically, you are standing in the now, you are standing in the moment, you are standing in your point of power. Remember the 5 laws, that you exist and you cannot stop existing, because existence is your fundamental quality. You can never become non-existent. You can change and change and change and change, but you can never become non-existent. Why? Because by definition, non-existence doesn't exist. Think about it. The idea, really said another way, perhaps a little bit more poetically, is non-existence is already full of all the things that will never exist, and there's no room in non-existence for the things that do exist. So you can look at it any way you wish. But remember the 5 laws. You exist. And then the idea that everything is here and now, which means that space and time, distance, are illusions, your illusions. Time is a side effect of your consciousness shifting through billions of different parallel versions of reality every single second. So every single second, you are new, you are zero, and you get to define yourself in this moment over and over and over and over again. And what you think of as continuity, what you think of as coming from the past, is simply your illusion that you're creating in the moment over and over and over again. Because as you become a new person every moment, you actually not only create a new future, you create a new past that goes with the person you are now. So most of you have had billions of different histories before you became the person you are right now. And if you understand that completely and utterly, you will know that no matter who you are right now, whatever you define yourself to be right now, nothing in the so-called past can ever affect you if you understand that you're the one creating the connection to that idea. It isn't something that automatically controls you in any way, shape, or form, aside from the illusion of continuity that you create every moment to make it seem as if it does. The idea, again, that the one is the all are the one, everyone is a reflection for everyone else of things that may serve you. This is why relationship is important. This is what relationships are for. To see the reflections from others that support you in finding out in those reflections who you truly are more and more every day in every way. The idea, therefore, of what you put out is what you get back again is simple physics, and the idea you call the law of attraction. But I remind you this, the true secret to the law of attraction, in some sense, is correct that you need to be the vibration of something to attract it if it is really relevant for you. In a sense, that's true, but it's missing an essential point, and that is this. Your fundamental, essential, vibrational signature frequency is already attracting every single thing that is relevant for you that you truly need in life. You don't have to learn to attract what you need. You have to stop getting in your way and keeping those things at bay. That's the difference. You need to remove all the negative fear-based beliefs that are preventing you from seeing that you are always in the key vibration, the essential frequency of attracting and manifesting everything you need. You never have to learn to attract. It's automatically built into you. If it wasn't, you couldn't have any kind of an experience at all. Think about it. If you weren't attracting, you couldn't even have the negative ones. So the idea is you're always attracting something. Be the vibration that you prefer in alignment with your truth, and let go of the things that are blocking what it is that your truth is attracting, and you will flow and manifest in an accelerated way. Again, 5th law, everything changes. Everything is always changing. You're all.
And I'll say good day to you. The transmission for today has been called the difference between guilt and responsibility. We understand many people on your planet have experienced the feelings of guilt and shame for many thousands of years, depending upon the actions that you take and how much of your conscious awareness comes into play with regard to whether or not you have acted out of integrity, meaning outside of integrity, and the idea of bringing yourself back into alignment. But many people on your planet go through a long process of letting go of the guilt and the shame before they are actually willing to let themselves experience responsibility in a positive sense. As we have said, our definition is simply the ability to respond. So the idea that we have spoken of before, when we have mentioned the concept of what we called natural anger, that lasts for about 15 seconds, and then it becomes an alignment energy for you to determine how to bring yourself back into alignment with your true vibration. Guilt can be used in the same way, and it is actually activated by much of the same mechanism, and is a representation of a similar vibrational energy as anger when it becomes judgment upon oneself, turning into the idea of hate, and so on and so forth. Then the natural energy that you experience as guilt, when you heap judgment upon yourself for having it, allows you to experience the idea of shame and doesn't really give you the ability to take full responsibility, to have the full ability to respond to the situation in a positive way. So this is really the same mechanism as we have described in terms of the natural anger, which perhaps from this point forward would be best terminized as alignment, an alignment energy. Best termed that way, instead of thinking of it as anger, which usually on your planet has a negative connotation already. So let's redefine the idea as alignment energy when you experience the idea of anger, when you experience the idea of guilt, when you experience the idea of shame, and all similar feelings. They are just representations, different expressions for different reasons of an alignment energy that gives you the opportunity to understand that you are out of alignment with your true vibration, out of sync with yourself, and without the judgment being heaped upon it, being heaped upon yourself for having experienced that alignment energy, then it won't turn anger into hate. It won't turn guilt into shame. You will simply be able to recognize it as an energy that tells you you are out of alignment with who you truly prefer to be. And you can bring yourself immediately back into alignment by being willing to take responsibility, by being willing to have the ability to respond to the situation in a positive way, saying, all right, this alignment energy, this rush of alignment energy that I am feeling, either as anger or guilt, doesn't have to perpetuate in a negative way, which only defeats the purpose of learning the lesson from it, that it helps me know I'm out of alignment so that I can take the opportunity to go back into alignment by taking responsibility, by having and expressing the ability to respond to my recognition that I'm out of alignment, by bringing myself back into alignment and not judging myself for having had the misalignment in the first place. So start to look at the idea of guilt as just another expression of the alignment energy, bringing it to your attention that it is not an expression of who you prefer to be, that you are out of sync with yourself, and start having more of an understanding of the ability to respond, bringing yourself back in to the idea of alignment by recognizing that it is simply an energy that let you know reflectively that you were out of alignment with who you truly prefer to be. So responsibility, the ability to respond, will short circuit the idea, if you're willing to go in that direction, of having any judgment on yourself for having been out of alignment, will prevent you from having to go through a long, involved, detailed process of wondering why and berating yourself for having gone out of alignment. Take this opportunity to shorten your processes. Take this opportunity to stop judging yourself for having slipped, as we say, or chosen, as we say, to go out of alignment momentarily, It does you really no good to continue that process of shame and guilt and anger, of continuing the misalignment by judging yourself negatively for having had that experience. Allow yourself to go quickly back into alignment by taking responsibility for having had the experience in a positive context and knowing that it has shown you very clearly who you truly prefer to be and snapping back into that choice, realizing that it served its purpose already. There's no need to dwell on it or wallow in having had the alignment rush that you felt. There is no need to continue the shame. There is every need on your planet for you to correct yourself immediately, bring yourself back into alignment, be a positive example of how to do so for others, so they also do not have to wallow into the idea of self-judgment, which you don't deserve, especially if you recognize by having that alignment rush that that's a good thing. It has shown you that you're operating properly, you're working properly, you're self-correcting, you're self-guiding. You are recognizing that you're out of alignment, and that's a positive recognition. So don't judge yourself negatively for that. Congratulate yourself for having realized, for having been willing to experience that rush of alignment energy that you used to call natural anger or used to call the idea of guilt. It's just a recognition. Use it positively, and you will move forward in a positive way very quickly and will not spend most of your time dwelling on the idea that you're judging yourself, which actually allows you to continue to judge yourself in a negative way. So know the differences here. Watch your definitions here. Use these to your advantage here, wherever and whenever you can. We thank you for allowing us to express this difference between the concept of guilt and responsibility by redefining all of these experiences as the alignment energy, the rush of alignment energy that allows you to know you are functioning perfectly, you are functioning fine. So celebrate that and congratulate yourself for having caught yourself in being misaligned with your true vibration, and allow yourself to snap back into that true vibration and move forward in your lives in a positive way. So in return for allowing us to share this concept with you this day of your time, I ask you now, in what way may we be of service to you? You may begin, if you wish, with your questions and dialogue.
I'll say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? Oh, fine. First of all, let us take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for allowing this communication to occur in this manner at this time. Each and every time you allow our civilization to make this transmissional link, this bridge, in this format, through this window, it affords our civilization an opportunity to experience, through each and every one of you, another facet, another aspect of the infinite, and this expands our understanding of all the different ways that the infinite can express itself. And so we thank you for this gift of sharing. We would like to begin this transmission with the following idea. We have now, for a little while of your time, been talking about what we consider to be a very important topic, a very critical topic, in understanding how to allow your lives to be transformed in the manner that you would desire. Notice that we utilize your word allow rather than use the word make. Allowing is the key. And this is why. What we will now talk about will be the issue that many of you have begun to understand, that is called the issue of surrender. And when we utilize that term, we do not mean surrender in the negative sense, in that you are creating a sacrifice within yourself, or in a sense giving up something which you truly need. We are talking about the concept of surrender as the true acceptance of your total being, of your total self, and the letting go of those aspects of your personality that only limit you, that in a sense are imposed upon you from childhood, that may not really be representative of who you are at heart, who you are in the core of your being. That is the type of surrender we are talking about. The allowance is to allow yourself to believe, to know with certainty that if you will be willing to let go of old ideas, old patterns, old beliefs, old definitions, and accept the being you were created to be in the image of the infinite, then you will be able to see, by surrendering those aspects of your personality that don't serve you, you will be able to see your life begin to reflect back to you those aspects of your being that are truly you. For physical reality, as you call it, is really nothing but a mirror. And I mean this quite literally. Quite literally. You have on your planet a device called a glass mirror. And when you look into a mirror, you will see the reflection of your face. Now, if your reflection is wearing a frown, you do not reach out and force the reflection to smile, but you yourself choose to smile instead. Physical reality is exactly like this. If you see things in your life and they are not necessarily reflective of what you prefer, of what you know
This
to
is
be
really not
representative
something
of your true
that you
self
can
and your heart
force
of hearts,
or assert
your
into
natural
someone else's
core,
experience.
true being.
It's something that you
The
know,
idea is
that
not
you
to
understand,
attempt to
that you
manipulate
do
the
your best
outside
to be
reality
in every
reflection
waking
in order
moment
to bring things
until
back
you
into alignment,
accomplish the
but that you must
momentum
change
of the
yourself
steadiness
within
of
yourself
that
first,
state of being.
so that your
And
physical
once you
reality,
accomplish, and
being
you
the mirror
do
that
very
it is,
readily,
can reflect
accomplish the
that change
steadiness
back
of
to
that
you.
state of
So just
being, that
as you
state of
know,
alignment,
you
then
cannot
others are
manipulate the
drawn to you
reflection
like moths
in a
to a
glass
flame.
mirror in
Not
order to
because
see
you
the
have
face
something that they
smile,
need,
but instead must
but because
smile
you are
first.
liking your
So
vibration,
too,
and
you can be
therefore law of
absolutely
attraction brings you
assured
together to
that
celebrate.
you know that if you do smile, you will see the smile reflected by the mirror, for the mirror has
When
no
you
choice
start
but
looking
to follow
for
suit.
those who need,
And therefore you can be assured that if you change inside, if you change yourself, your physical reality has no choice but to reflect that back to you. It must follow suit, for it does not have a mind of its own. But we know that when you are brought up with ideas that can make you doubt yourself, then you can play all sorts of complicated games in your mind about whether or not your reality is going to reflect the truth. You can not be certain that it will reflect back to you who you are. You can pretend that it has the ability to do something contrary to what it is that you give off. But it can't. It really cannot. This is simple physics. We want you to understand that many of the things that we will be discussing this day of your time, the many principles that we will be sharing and discussing that have to do with your ability to change your lives in the way you prefer, will not just be left to the realm of philosophy. Oh, that sounds like a nice idea, but how does it work? Oh, that's all well and good to say that thing, all lovey-dovey, as you say, but what practical use is it? We will not leave it in that realm, but will allow you to understand that the tools, the concepts that we are sharing with you are truly concepts of physics, action, reaction. You will be able to see, by applying these principles, effects in your life, physically, because we're not just talking about philosophical concepts. We are talking about physics. We are talking about the way reality is created. We are talking about the way life actually works in your physical dimension. So we know that this comprises a type of tool kit, and if you will keep the tools sharp and will apply them steadfastly, then you will see that they will do their job. And all you have to do is do the job of being yourself in order to use them properly. Now, what does this entail? Well, first and foremost, a very important principle. Doing the job of being yourself, first and foremost, means this, that you must treat yourself with love and respect, that you must value yourself. We can tell from interaction and observation that many of you have been taught to devalue yourselves, to think yourselves unworthy, undeserving, to think of yourselves as less than you were created to be. And as long as you choose to continue to devalue yourselves and doubt your own self-empowerment, then these tools will not be as effective as they could be. For if you are not functioning holistically, you cannot expect the tools to do their job fully. So the first principle is to understand that unconditional love must be given from yourself to yourself first. For if you do not love yourself, you will not be able to love anyone else. And we understand that you have what you call on your planet a golden rule that you usually quote as, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. However, a more precise understanding of this golden rule would really be, psychologically speaking, you will do to others what you are willing to do to yourself. So when you devalue yourself, when you do not think you are worthy, certainly you will not attach any value to anything or anyone. And therefore you will treat your world, other people, and yourselves with great disrespect. And that will amount and result in many of the difficulties and problems you see on your planet today. It is as simple as that. You do not love yourselves, so you do not love others, and so therefore you do not love your world, and therefore you see all the difficulties. But when you understand that it begins with you, and we do not mean this in a negatively selfish way, but when it begins with self-love, then you will know you are all right, you will know you are self-empowered, you will know you are connected to the infinite, you will know that a source of infinite power can always be expressed through you, you will know that life does not happen to you, but happens through you, you will be a conscious, creative being in the way you were created to be, a co-creator with creation, and you will then be full of compassion, creativity, life, love, self-expression, and you will know how to be a shining example with others, to others, for others, with others, and for yourself, so that your lives can be a reflection of what you say you prefer it to be. Now, it's time to go on your planet beyond what you call lip service. It's time to put into action these principles. And so this is why it is important to understand that we are not just talking about nice ideas that you can just keep talking about and thinking about and run around in your heads and say, oh yes, that sounds nice. We're talking about principles you can put into action, that you can apply and get a result from, so that you can see and experience that result, and in experiencing that result, you can then know that these tools work. You can then know that you are a self-actualized being, made in the image of the infinite. You can have that experience, and in knowing that, you will then radiate that frequency, and in radiating that frequency, then the reflection from physical reality mirror will be an equal reflection back to you. It is as simple as that. And so, we once again thank you for allowing us to share this point of view with you this day of your time. And once again, in return for the great gift that you are giving our world in allowing us to link with you, we ask in return now, in what way may we and I be of service to you? You may begin with sharing in any manner you so desire. And to you good day.
All right, let's say, let us continue with this transmission in the following way. We have discussed along this notion of living in the moment the idea that what you choose your state of being to be is of paramount importance. State of being is the most critical issue, which is why in The Secret it was mentioned that the secret to the secret was simply choosing to be happy. For no other reason other than that is your preferred state of being. Because there is no empirical physical reality, then state of being really becomes the only thing that determines the experience that you have in the idea of physical reality, because that's all it is. It's an experience, it's an idea. That is what is real about it, the experience. But physical reality itself is not real by itself, on its own. As you choose the state of being that you prefer, or based on whatever beliefs you have within your physiological mind, personality, structure, as you choose beliefs that determine what your state of being will be, that, of course, is what determines how you experience this idea of yourself called physical reality. Because that's all it is. It's an experience of your own consciousness from a particular point of view, from a particular state of being that generates that kind of an effect within you, that you then call an externalized physical reality. Circumstances in physical reality, thus, are illusionary. They're just symbols. Again, as we have said many times, it's just a reflection based on what you are giving off. Now, the secret calls this idea law of attraction the primary law. We refer to it as the third law of creation. It is, however, the first law of action, even within the four laws. Because the first law, that you exist, is simply a description of a state of being. The second law, that the one is all, the all are one, is also a description of the nature, of the structure of that state of being. But the third law, what you put out is what you get back, is the first law of action. And that is what is being said and the difference being made in the secret by calling the law of attraction the first or primary law of the universe. Because it is the first law of action, and it's therefore the first law that actually brings about manifestational experience. Then the fourth law, everything changes except the first three laws, is what qualifies and colors that experience, what allows you different perspectives of the experience of creating the idea of physical reality. You will remember that what was also very important in the secret was this idea that we talked about before about being passionate as expressed in the concept of play, of playing with everything that happens in your reality, really having an attitude of gratitude toward it so that you receive every experience you have in a playful way, and thus by receiving it in that playful way can do that much more with it, be that much more creative with it, allow it to be that much more flexible, malleable, stretchable, changeable, formable. Play. That energy is what allows physical reality to become like clay. So play with the clay of physical reality. If you approach it from an energy state of being that is of a lower vibration, that's when the clay hardens. That's when it's unchanging in that state. But as soon as you start to be more playful with what's going on in your life, it softens and becomes clay-like, plastic, malleable, formable, changeable again, and gets in step with the fourth law, as you do. Change is the only constant. So in that sense, when you become more playful, you become more changeable. And as a result, your physical reality will mirror that changeability. Become easier to transform from one kind of reflection to another. Now, very important. This is where physical mind, once again, can sometimes get caught up in its own sense of control. And that is that when we talk about the idea What you put out is what you get back. The physical mind, because, again, of how it looks at physical reality being the only thing there is, will assume that if it doesn't see an exact one-to-one reflection in the circumstances that surround you with what it is you believe you're giving off, you will think that something has failed. Again, I remind you, this is where you get caught in your own paradoxical trap. Even though it is true that what you put out is what you get back, and that by being in a certain state of being, that will determine what the circumstances around you are, the first stage of that, the first manifestation of that, will be usually, especially in your world of space and time, usually the first reflection will look the same as it used to. Because this gives you an opportunity to reinforce the state of being by responding to the circumstances that look the same differently than you did before. And that is where you then allow the circumstances to truly reflect that you have changed and demonstrate that you truly have changed by responding to the circumstances differently, even if they look the same as they used to. That's how it works. So the first reflection will usually be an echo of how it used to look. You must not respond to the echo as if that's the representation of your new state. You must respond to it, in a sense, as if you know it's just an echo, and that what you're putting out now, the new response to the old circumstances, that will solidify the vibration of your preferred state of being and truly allow the circumstances to change themselves and take their cue from the new vibration you're putting out, which is the absolute certainty that you are different. Because if you respond to the old echo in the same way you used to, you are not different. So in a sense, it's like you're testing yourself. It's like you're giving yourself an opportunity to decide whether you really do want the circumstances to change by first presenting yourself very often with the same set of circumstances to see if you respond differently to them, making a clear commitment that you have, in fact, vibrationally changed your state of being. Once you have then done that and respond differently to the same set of circumstances, then you have established that you truly have changed, and then the circumstances can reflect that change. So don't be fooled by the echo into thinking you've done something wrong by labeling it in the same way you used to. Oh, I didn't see what I wanted to get immediately. It looks the same as it did before. The same people are here giving me the same kind of feedback. I must have done something wrong. Or something's not working. Or you find that you're reacting to it in the same way you used to. Because if you do, you have not changed. So that's the self-reinforcing mechanism that gives you the opportunity to decide whether you really want to change that circumstance or not. Because again, remember, all belief systems, by definition, are self-reinforcing. They have to be. If belief systems were not self-reinforcing and making themselves seem like the only thing there is to believe in, you wouldn't be able to have an actual, distinct, discrete belief system experience. If beliefs did not come with a self-reinforcing mechanism, you wouldn't be able to have a discrete physical experience. And because they come with a self-reinforcing mechanism, when you change your vibrational state, one of the last things to fade will be the self-reinforcing mechanism. It will present the same scenario to you once again, but it will be presented not as a concrete reality, but only as an illusion, only as an echo of what was, to give you a chance to really decide that you will break through that self-reinforcing mechanism by defining and labeling it differently than you used to, proving that you have changed, thus allowing the reflection to then truly come. That's how that works. Use that mechanism to your advantage by understanding very clearly And if you wish to use this almost as a mantra, you certainly may. Again, as we discussed last night, all of these things are nothing more than permission slips that, if you decide they work for you, if you decide they resonate according to your frequency, will simply allow you to permit yourself to change in the way you prefer to. The mantra doesn't do it for you. It simply is a reflection of the belief system within you that says this is what you will allow to give you permission, to give yourself permission to change in the way you wish to. So use this as a mantra if you wish, if it works for you, knowing that you're doing it if you need it at all. And that is, again, the idea, not even so much the statement that circumstances do not determine state of being. State of being determines circumstances. Now, you can use that. However, we would also suggest something even simpler and something even stronger. And that is simply, and the mantra is this: circumstances don't matter. Only state of being matters. And again, listen to the way that this synchronistically translates in your English language. Circumstances don't matter. They do not create materialization. Only state of being matters. Only state of being materializes experience. So, the mantra is, anytime you find yourself doubting, stuck, fearful, because of what you believe the situation is, what you believe the circumstances are, you can, if you wish, use this little reminder. Circumstances don't matter. Only state of being matters. And then choose the state of being you prefer. And then redefine the circumstances from that state of being, so that you can erase the echo and allow the true reflection to then take form from your state of being. Circumstances don't matter. Only state of being matters. Now, we apologize if what we are about to do with you, to some of your physical minds, may sound, a little cultish. It isn't meant this way. It's simply meant to express to you something very important. It's one thing very often to your physical minds when you hear someone else's voice say something. It's another when your own voice says it. So, repeat out loud after me. Circumstances don't matter.
Circumstances don't matter.
Only my state of being matters.
Only my state of being matters.
Now, do it with excitement in a calm way. Because what this begets is simple certainty. Repeat. Circumstances don't matter. Only my state of being matters. One more time. Circumstances don't matter. Only my state of being matters. One more time. Circumstances don't matter. Only my state of being matters. Understand. When you say this to yourself in your own vibrational voice, you will start to listen. Because what you're doing by making this statement is what we talked about earlier. You are voicing a message from the higher self in language the physical mind understands. This mantra and all mantras of this nature are exactly that kind of tool. It is a way of translating for the physical mind in terms it can understand a communication from the higher self. That's why they're powerful.
if you agree that it's a permission slip that works for you. So, anytime you find yourself in doubt, in fear, confused about the circumstances going on, stop. Say to yourself, out loud, no matter how many people might think you're crazy. Yes, of course, yes, of course, yes, of course. You can say it inside your head if you wish to. But if you're really being bold, and if it's really important to you to have the reality you prefer, then make a commitment and say it out loud. You don't have to shout. You don't have to scream. But stop and say, circumstances don't matter. Only my state of being matters. What state of being do I prefer? Then choose. And as you choose, behave that way toward the circumstances. You will be amazed at how quickly it will evaporate. You will take people off guard. At the very least, they might say, oh, she's crazy, and move away. And then you won't have to deal with them anymore. So one way or another, it will create the bubble reality of your preferred vibration and will act as an organizing principle and driving engine to move out of that bubble any vibration that is incompatible. It is one of the strongest, most centering statements you can make for yourself. Circumstances don't matter. Only my state of being matters. What state of being do I prefer? Then behave that way. That's all there is to that idea of centering. That's all there is to the idea of redefining, re-identifying yourself, and remaining on the cutting edge, the leading edge, the crest of the wave of the transformation. That's really all it takes. Now, to whatever degree your physical mind's belief system will allow you to believe that is your process to work on, if such a process is even needed. But I guarantee you, if you can truly, as you say, get into the absolute certainty of that statement, if you can truly understand that it is a true message from your higher self in physical mind terminology, and you truly pay attention to it, don't just get caught up in rote repetition until your voice becomes a droning thing you no longer hear. But when you truly say it in your own voice and truly listen to your own voice and pay attention to the vibration of your own voice saying it, you will hear the truth in it. And as soon as you really hear the truth in it, you will feel your entire physical being go, oh, I don't have to try so hard. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. Only my state of being matters. Oh, oh, joy. What is this feeling? What is this feeling? Oh my gosh, it's so foreign. Joy? Unbridled, unconditional love and joy. I'm tingling. You know, I like this sensation. I think I'll create more of it. Now, then. We love your paradoxical language. No wonder you're so confused. Now then. Now or then? All right. Here and now, let us have sharing with questions if you wish.
will say, let us continue this transmission in the following words. When we talk about the idea of crystalline portals within the infinite, what we are basically referring to are those vortices that are created by the overlapping of energy streams, of an energy net, an energy matrix of consciousness. Did you all enjoy that? That in and of themselves are doorways and gateways. We'll start again in a few minutes. That connect an infinite number of realities and dimensions. They are the nexus points in the structure of existence as your consciousness creates it. They are awakening points in your very consciousness. They are those nodal points of energy wherein you can find your connection to all other aspects of your being and creation. They are those moments in space-time where you find yourself balanced, centered, at peace. They are that ability for you to know, to connect, to be in harmony, in synchronization with the flow, the ebb of consciousness in all its forms. These crystalline portals are a way in which consciousness expresses itself in order to have an experience in any different dimensional realm. And in particular, in what you call the experience of physiological reality, these crystalline portals converge to form what we call the template level between non-physical and physical reality, between spirit and matter. This template reality is unto itself a crystalline matrix composed of many different kinds of portals, in a sense, vortices, in a sense, windows, gateways, doorways, in a sense, that allow you to experience physical reality as you so choose, as you so desire. The template level reality is like unto the surface of the ocean. Above is the air, below are the deeps. The air, the analogy of non-physical spirit reality. Below, the analogy of what you call the thick and dense experience of physical matter. And the surface that links the two, bridges the two, bonds the two, is the interface between spirit and physical experience in the template reality. The vibrational resonance of this crystalline portal is what allows your consciousness to translate into the prism of your personality, composed of beliefs and emotions and thought pattern actions. The three-sided crystalline prism through which the unbroken white light of your consciousness is diversified into the spectrum of physical, material existence and experience. This template-level reality is the blueprint where you choose to create the experiences that will filter down, sink down into the depths of the physical sea and become materialized reflections for you to experience. The template reality is where you go in dreams to create an idea, to explore and experiment with what you will manifest in physical reality, what theme you will lay out for yourself, what hallway you will walk down, metaphorically speaking, on your exploration of yourself through the idea of physical experience. For that is what you are doing. For you become, when you physically materialize, you become a uniquely vibrating, crystalline portal with a signature frequency that is tapped into many different dimensional experiences in parallel realities simultaneously to guide you, to navigate through physical reality in a variety of ways, to give you sensation, to give you space-time experience, to allow you the opportunity to experience creation in the making, creation in process, so that you can savor every precious moment, every scintillating second of the idea of creation coming into manifestation. You channel creation through the crystalline portal that you are. You bring it into being, into manifestation, by your very nature. As a facet of the multidimensional crystal of creation, you reflect the light of creation uniquely off that facet that you are, with a particular tone, a particular resonance, a particular tint. And you create your portion of the rainbow, the infinite rainbow of light and sound. That is what makes up physical reality experience. You are, in this sense, blessed with this gift of the exploration of yourselves through physical reality experience. For only in that can you actually know the idea of a process, of a beginning and an ending, of a journey, of a path, of a story. And therein lies one of the most profound aspects of the crystalline portals, the crystalline matrix, the template reality, in the very essence and nature of what you call story. For your lives are stories. And story structure, the underlying story structure, is the underlying archetypal structure of your consciousness. That's why stories resonate so strongly with you. In book, in film, in television. Story is what allows you to remember information in a pattern that suits you, because story structure is how your personality is formed. Is the archetype in your consciousness. And when you hit the appropriate chords that resonate within you, when you tell a story, when you live a story, when you are a story, it sticks in your soul and becomes part of the vibration of your signature frequency. Forever. That experience is yours, uniquely yours, yours alone. You are a story. A crystalline story forming, unfolding before you. Revealing itself. Revelation itself comes from story. From the crystalline portal that you are. You are channeling a version of yourself into being, into physical experience. You are. You are. You are light and sound and being. You are knowing and awareness. You are. You are. You are. Here and now. Forever and ever. Here and now. Eternally. Eternally. Infinitely. Eternally. Beginning and end of story happens within creation. 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 The very word, the very notion comes from story. The very beginnings of your story could not happen without once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away. Time and space are the very foundations of story. And the crystalline portal, the crystalline structure, the crystalline matrix, the template reality, that crystalline template, is what you play your story upon. It is your paper. It is the pages upon which you write your story and allow them to trickle down into your physical material experience of manifestation. You are all storytellers. You are all story writers. You are all story livers, living your own story, alive in your story, and sharing your stories with all others who are also sharing theirs. Yeah.
the beginning of a story. A new story. Rejoice in the stories, for they tell you who you are and reveal more of yourself unto yourself. Allow yourselves to continue to write these stories as you wish. For your excitement and your joy and the acting thereupon will allow you the unfoldment of a story like no other that shall last for all eternity and shall be woven into the tapestry of creation itself, into what you call the Akashic records, for all to draw upon, not just those of your world, but of other worlds. For you are crystal portals to other worlds as well, who know of you and read your stories and marvel at your creation. For you are all teachers. As you live your stories, we and many more can also experience through you the opportunity to know your stories and to see the beauty and the multi-dimensional magnificence of all that is, and all the stories it is. All the stories together make up the prime story of all that is. And through your stories, your unique individual stories and our unique individual stories and the unique individual stories of all beings in creation, does all that is thus know itself as the story without beginning and the story without end. For only within all that is are there beginnings and endings. All that is not subject to them. And all that is has no beginning and no ending, for that makes it the ultimate story, the unending story. And within that unending story, all other stories are born. All other stories die. All other stories are created anew. And fresh life is breathed into them. Each and every one of you have a heart that knows your story. And all you have to do is allow a relationship to harmonize between your heart and your mind and your higher self to allow you to live that story as fully as you can. All of you are on grand adventures. Answer that call. Answer the call to adventure. For that call, again, even though it may lead you into the unknown, will always be that which reveals more of who you are. Your imaginings, your imaginations, magi, nation of magicians. Allow yourselves to be in your own stories magic and magical. Live your lives with integrity, without expectation, in the knowledge you will be supported as you need to, and allow all forms of story to coexist, for no one story is more true than another. If there was only one story, there would only be one person. Look around. You are many. We are many. There are many stories. Many ways of telling the story. And for each, their story is the story they need to tell. So that all that is may know itself as fully as it can, so that all that is can be truly all that is. For nothing is left out. And if you exist, then you belong. And your story belongs. And your story is precious. We thank you for sharing your stories with us and allowing us to share more of our stories with you. And again, together we are creating yet again a new story. All together with a fantastic cast of characters. All right, some stories are comedies. Some stories choose to be tragedies. There are love stories and stories of pain and battle and struggle and strife. But all stories are valid, and all stories change.
And when you discover your true selves and answer that call to adventure as your true self, then you transform. And that's what story also is. Transformation. Discovery. Self-awareness. Renewal.
I want to say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. We thank you once again for allowing this communication, this transmission to occur in this manner, through this window, at this time, in this way. Once again, each and every time you allow our civilization to interact with your civilization in this manner, it affords our world an opportunity to see through each and every one of your eyes a new way, a different way, an additional way that the universe has of expressing itself, and this expands our understanding of creation as well. So we thank you for this gift of sharing. We would like to begin this transmission, this day of your time, with a light subject that we will call denial, separation, and projection. Now, the idea is to understand that negative belief systems, that is, belief systems that may be incorporated into your personality, into your consciousness, that are, shall we say, against the grain of your true self, out of alignment with your true self, out of alignment with your joy, out of alignment with your love, in alignment with your fear, belief systems of that nature, for lack of a better term, let's term them negative, mechanically, because negative energy separates, segregates, compartmentalizes, as opposed to positive energy, which integrates and makes whole. That is the mechanical definition, positive and negative energy. Belief systems, then, that your personality may have been fed since childhood, that may still be with you in your consciousness, may allow you then to experience the idea of fear. And in experiencing the idea of fear, it brings with it, many times, an inability to recognize what is going on in your consciousness. It has, in a sense, separated you from awareness of yourself. And thus then, when you encounter circumstances and situations in life that may interact with those belief systems, or more euphemistically, as you put it in your language, that push your buttons, you then may find yourself, rather than being aware of what the belief is that is causing the reaction within you that is negative, you may simply go into the idea called denial, which is simply lack of awareness of yourself. And you may then, because you are compounding the negative energy, go into further negative energy, which would be separation. And in the energy of denial, and in the energy of separation, because it is separate from yourself, or seems to be, you will then project the idea of the causation of this feeling outward, beyond yourself, not in yourself. You will project onto others, blame other situations for what you are experiencing, rather than accepting the responsibility for the feeling, for the experience, based on the belief systems going on within you. Now, this does not mean that you cannot recognize and cannot acknowledge when someone else might in fact be acting out of integrity, might in fact be negatively attacking you, or doing something hurtful intentionally. This does not mean you cannot recognize what their actions are based on. But, depending upon the clarity that you have within your own consciousness, depending upon the level of awareness you have about what belief systems you yourself have bought into, you can, regardless of anyone else's intention, you can utterly determine the effect you experience in your life. You do not have to react to any given situation or circumstance in any particular way. You can decide how you will use the information, how will you use the idea in your lives, how you will integrate the information. You can decide to experience it in a positive way, to get a positive effect out of it, regardless of what they may have intended consciously or unconsciously. All you have to do, first of all, is recognize that if you do start to react and attack back, that is simply the mechanism of separation, of projection, based on denial or lack of awareness of the negative belief systems that you may have bought into that are perched within your unconscious self. All you have to do is get in touch with what those negative definitions, those fear definitions, might be. The idea, thus, then, is that this concept, this three-part concept, denial, separation, projection, is another tool that you can use to give yourself a moment of pause in any circumstance and to be more consciously aware of what the choices are for you in terms of how you will interact and how you will respond rather than react to any given circumstance, and thus allow your life, your energy, your experience of the interaction, of the event, of the exchange, to be one that works for you in a positive way, again, regardless of what anyone else's intention, consciously or unconsciously, might have been. Because the choice and the power and the control, in that sense, is always in your hands. And reactions are usually, in the negative sense, only based on the fact that you have incorporated within you belief systems that are out of alignment with your truth, your joy, your love, and are in alignment with your fear, your doubt. And remember, fear is your own energy. What you experience as the sensation of fear is your own energy. And it is exactly the same energy as the energy you experience when you experience love and joy. It is exactly the same energy, but it is a different frequency of that energy. Why is it a different frequency? Because when you flow or channel your energy through your personality, through your consciousness, and your consciousness has a negative belief system within it that it's out of alignment with your truth, that energy will be experienced as the sensation you call fear. When you experience your energy or channel your energy through positive belief systems, you will experience the same energy as the frequency of joy and love. But this is also a very powerful tool because it can help put you in touch with where you're at, what kind of belief systems you have. Because if you find yourself experiencing fear, that can tell you you have a belief system that needs looking at, that needs clarifying. We have many times, and many of you have heard this, used the analogy of the instrument on your planet you call the piano. If you are playing a wonderful song that you love, and all of a sudden you hit a flat note, a sour note, you do not run away from the piano screaming, vowing never to play it again, usually. You will simply say to yourself, that key needs to be tuned, to be brought back into harmony with the rest of the keys. That's what fear is. It's simply a flat key. It is simply letting you know you have a belief system that your energy is channeling through that results in this frequency. If you want to bring that key back into harmony with the rest of your beliefs, then use it to find out what kind of a belief system you would have to believe, what kind of idea you would have to buy into, what kind of perspective you would have to hold to be true in order to experience that kind of a reaction. Once you use your fear in that way, it will automatically transform, more or less quickly, into curiosity and imagination. And you will be able to use that energy to delve into yourself and find out what that belief system is, and then change it into a definition you prefer, which then, by doing, will automatically replace the old one. Why? Because you said so, that's why. No more complicated than that. No extra process needed, unless you insist on one, but that's your choice. But when you replace it, when you invent, when you imagine a new definition, and you believe in it wholeheartedly, and you act like you believe in it wholeheartedly, then your life will reflect that belief to you, and you will see the fear transform, and you will see the reality transform. But again, I remind you, as I always will when this point comes up, it must be an unconditional change. You must change the belief because that's who you say you are, not because of what you think it will get you. Yes, I will be happy if this happens. I will be happy when this happens. Yes, I will change my belief because I know it will change my reality to look like this or look like that. That's conditional.
It needs to be unconditional, which means you need to change the belief and live in the state you prefer to live just because that's who you say you are, even if nothing else were to change. You see, the mark, the measure, the symbol of whether or not you have really, really changed is that you start to respond differently, more positively to what's going on outside around you, even if what's going on outside around you stays the same. It is not the mark of change that your outside world changes. It will, but only after you don't care if it does. That's the paradox. You have to change for change's sake, for your own sake, because the change is representative of simply who you are, and that's it. Not because of what you think it will do, or who you think it will change, or what you think it will get you. That's conditional, and this whole idea is about unconditional love, first of yourself, because if you don't love yourself unconditionally, you can't love anyone else really. And then the outward expression of that unconditional love toward your life, toward everyone in your life, toward everything and everyone and all that is. This idea also goes hand in hand with a side concept we would like to address that we would like to call ground floor spirituality. The idea is to keep your spirituality simple, obvious, evident, plain, everyday, immediate, here and now. Not allowed to get too lofty in the sense of moving away from physical reality. As you simply live your physical life to the fullest and be who you are as best as you can be, you will become, in a sense, more aligned with your spiritual side. You will elevate your vibration, your frequency. It's not about detaching from physical reality. It's about incorporating and integrating spirituality and physicality into one, all-embracing life, embracing action, being, doing, saying. An example. There is, in the structure that you are all now sitting near, what you call the building, in what you call one of the upstairs bathrooms, there are 3 signs. One sign says, the greatest thing is to learn to know oneself. The other sign says, a prayer for serenity, asking for serenity to know what you need to accept, courage to change things that can be changed, wisdom to know the difference. Most of you are familiar with that. But the third sign says, put only toilet paper in the toilet. This is the essence of ground floor spirituality. That which belongs to that which belongs. That which is correct for that which is correct and appropriate. To a Zen master, the third sign would be the most spiritual sign. The adherence to the third sign automatically and instinctively, for example, would be a sign that the other 2 signs had already been fulfilled. Because you automatically simply would know what belongs where, without having to be told. You get the point? All right. Now then, we will take this opportunity once again to thank each and every one of you for allowing this exchange to take place. And once again, in return for the gift that you are giving to our society, I ask in what way may I now be of service to you.